Something's brewing inside the walls of the star. Something subtle yet seismic. Something that might not be flashing across the ticker or setting social media on fire just yet. But when it hits, it's going to explode. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the quiet before the storm. Because today, we're pulling back the curtain on two names, Donovan Wilson and Scoon Maker, that could silently reshape the Dallas Cowboys' future in ways almost no one is prepared for. So welcome into the Cowboys Report. I'm Tom Downey, and if you're one of the real ones, the fans who don't just watch games, but study shadows, then you're going to want to lean in, because today's show might be the one where it all starts to unravel. And before we get into the twists, the power plays, and the unspoken messages behind every roster decision, I need you to hit that subscribe button. We are just 639 souls away from 218,000 strong, and I want you to be part of the army that sees the truth before it explodes. Now let's talk Donovan Wilson, a name that used to command respect, a guy who used to hit like a hammer and carry the fire of this defense on his back. But now he's quietly being mentioned in whispers as a man on the edge, a contract hanging by a thread, with $8.65 million looming on the cap and $7 million in savings staring this front office in the face like a tempting devil in the dark. And according to Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Wilson has found himself floating in the most dangerous place an NFL veteran can be. The bubble. That's right. Not injured. Not benched. Bubble. And this isn't clickbait. This is strategic silence. The kind of move you don't broadcast until it's too late. Harris didn't scream it. He slipped it in. Subtle. Calculated. Just a line in his depth chart analysis, and yet that single note cracked open a Pandora's box. Despite being one of the longest-tenured Cowboys, a 6-year enforcer in the secondary, Wilson may be facing the end. And if the young blood in the safety room shows even a flicker of consistency, the front office might pull the trigger. And let's not forget, Wilson missed most of OTAs and minicamp due to off-season knee surgery. A coincidence? Or was that the moment the tide shifted? Because when he came back fast. Almost too fast. Like a man who knows his back is against the wall. Like a veteran who senses someone breathing down his neck in the film room and on the practice field. Like a leader fighting to silence the footsteps behind him. Now here's the real kicker. Cutting Wilson post-June 1st has always saved the same amount of money. The team didn't need to wait. They chose to. Why? That's the tension. Because if they believed Wilson was essential, they would have said so by now. They would have locked him in. But instead, they sat and watched. And that tells you everything. They're waiting. Watching. Calculating. Seeing whether Wanya Thomas, Marquise Bell, or even Elijah Clark, the undrafted wild card with real upside, will flash enough in camp to make Wilson a luxury they can no longer afford. And that's the test, not just for Wilson's play, but for his role. Because if he's not starting, if he drops to safety 3 on the depth chart, then $7 million becomes an anchor, not an asset. That's the cold business of it. And while fans might not be ready to say goodbye to Wilson, the Cowboys have proven time and time again they'll move off players mid-stride if it means flexibility. So I'll ask you, and this is more than a fan poll. K for keep, C for cut. What's your call? Because this one could go either way, and one missed tackle, one standout preseason performance from a younger, cheaper body could tilt the scales. This is real. This is happening. And while we chew on that, let's shift to another silent battle, one that's happening beneath the surface of the tight end room, where Scoon Maker, the second-round pick who was supposed to be the future, may be spiraling toward a fall from grace. Because while Nick Harris listed him as safe, that word has layers, and in this case, safe only applies to the 53-man cut line, not to the role or respect Scoon Maker once held, because behind Jake Ferguson, the clear T1, there's a storm rising, and its name is Brevin Spanford, the undrafted underdog who's been earning whispers of greatness, one rep at a time, drawing praise from coaches, media, and even Brian Schottenheimer, who said Spanford's breakout is already underway. And folks, that's not just coach speak. That's a warning. Because while the crowd has been quiet on Scoon Maker, the drum beat behind Spanford has been getting louder with every practice snap, every block, every contested catch, and the silence around Scoon Maker. That's the kind of silence that gets you replaced. That's the kind of silence that means the front office is watching and waiting. Again, the same story, different position. And if you think this is just a camp body making noise, think again. Spanford is 6'7", 270, an absolute mountain of a man who could move defensive ends off the ball, who's blocking like a tackle and showing just enough promise in the passing game to be considered a threat. And the Cowboys have to ask themselves, what do we want from our TE2? A more athletic guy who hasn't quite clicked, or a physically dominant blocker who might be just scratching the surface of his receiving potential? Scoon Maker's path was supposed to be clear, but now it's cluttered, and worse, he's out of guaranteed money. The leash is gone. The patience is wearing thin. And if Spanford outperforms him in camp and preseason, don't be surprised if Scoon Maker finds himself as the new face on the cut watch list. So tell me, Cowboy Nation, BSF or LS, who's your TE2? The battle lines are drawn. One came with hype, the other came with hunger. And in this league, hunger usually wins. Now, while you're here, if you want to rock a CD Lamb jersey, today's the day. We've got a 25% discount live right now at chatsports.com. Joss Lamb with code HOMERUN. The link is below, and the offer's hot. Just like this roster drama. Because we're entering a season where every snap counts, every decision matters, and the Cowboys, for all their power and potential, are dancing on the edge of roster chaos, quietly setting up choices that might shock fans and even shake the locker room. Donovan Wilson, Luke Scoon Maker. Two names you might think are safe, but in reality, they're walking a tightrope, and whether they fall or fly depends not on the contracts they signed, not on the years they've been here, but on the minutes and seconds of camp battles, coaches' meetings, and those fleeting moments when greatness or failure reveals itself on a sunburned practice field in Oxnard. So don't blink, don't assume, and don't miss the signs. This Cowboys team is evolving, and some familiar faces might not survive the transformation. The undrafted underdog who's been earning whispers of greatness, one rep at a time. Drawing praise from coaches, media, and even Brian Schottenheimer, who said Spanford's breakout is already underway. And folks, that's not just coach speak, that's a warning. Because while the crowd has been quiet on Scoon Maker, the drumbeat behind Spanford has been getting louder with every practice snap, every block, every contested catch, and the silence around Scoon Maker. That's the kind of silence that gets you replaced. That's the kind of silence that means the front office is